This podcast is sponsored and brought to you by Rico Gado Nutrition Limited, Nigeria's leading manufacturer of top-quality animal feeds for cattle, sheep, poultry, and fish breeders and farmers.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise to distill the most vital insights from a stack of information just for you. Today, we're diving deep into a topic absolutely critical for Nigeria's future: modernizing commercial animal husbandry, with a sharp focus on cattle rearing. We've got two insightful source articles that lay out the landscape from fascinating perspectives to, actionable ideas. Our mission today is really to understand why widespread cattle ranching remains such a persistent challenge in Nigeria, even as open grazing continues to fuel these awful farmer-herder clashes. We'll explore what's working, what hasn't, and how proposed solutions might move the needle forward. This deep dive is especially for you, whether you're a government official shaping policy or an animal farmer on the ground seeking to drive real change. It's fascinating because even with modern advancements like companies such as Rico Gado Nutrition Limited setting up to manufacture animal feeds, the fundamental issue, the transition from open grazing to ranching, still largely eludes widespread adoption.
Exactly. This deep dive will peel back the layers, looking beyond the headlines. We need to examine the historical context, the economic forces at play, and the very specific proposals outlined in our sources. We'll explore why past attempts haven't yielded the desired impact and what strategies might truly make a difference this time around.
Okay, so let's unpack this vital conversation, extracting those crucial nuggets you need to be exceptionally well informed and hopefully ready to take action. Let's kick things off by looking at the current state of affairs. Our sources immediately point to a really pressing challenge. Nigeria's national herd, estimated at, 19.5 million cattle, it simply isn't meeting the country's animal protein demand.
That's a stark reality. The national demand for meat is actually over 1 million metric tons, and it's continuously increasing as the economy recovers.
Over 1 million tons.
Yeah, and the reliance on imports is quite significant. About 50%, half, of the animals consumed in Nigeria originate from the ECOWAS region and other countries. And it's not just meat. We're importing an estimated U.S. $400 million worth of milk and dairy products annually. That's huge.
$400 million just on dairy imports.
Wow.
And when you consider the sheer scale, it's truly staggering. Lagos State alone slaughters more than 6,000 cattle daily. Project Nigeria's population to 300 million by 2025, making it the fourth most populous country globally. I mean, the demand for animal protein is set to grow exponentially. This context makes modernizing agriculture, particularly livestock breeding, absolutely crucial. For national food security, yes, but also to fully leverage Nigeria's massive internal market.
And what's quite striking here, something the source points out, is the common assertion that the global best practice for rearing cattle must be in ranches.
Right, everyone just assumes that's the only way.
Exactly. But our source challenges this, even labeling it as potentially post-truth.
Yeah.
Where objective facts are less influential than emotional appeals or just widely accepted beliefs. The objective fact is, in sub-Saharan Africa, only about 15 to 20% of cattle are actually reared in ranches.
Only 15 to 20%, that's surprising.
It is. So this begs the question, what exactly has made modernizing our cattle production, despite its obvious benefits, such a difficult nut to crack on a larger scale?
And it's not for lack of trying, it seems. Our sources detail several past attempts, don't they? Efforts to modernize cattle production that just haven't had the desired impact. Can you walk us through some of those key efforts?
Certainly. We've seen significant efforts dating way back, actually, to the 1940s, with the importation of purebred dairy cows.
The 40s, wow.
Yeah. And then there was the establishment of dairy farms in places like Age and Vom. Later in the 1970s, the setting up of the State Livestock Improvement and Breeding Centers, or LIBCs.
LIBCs, right.
Essentially, government facilities focus on improving livestock genetics. Even today, you have the National Animal Production Research Institute, NEPRI, along with private farms, continuing to produce and sell crossbred heifers.
So the effort is there on some level.
It is. Yet, despite all these initiatives, that desired widespread transformation hasn't been achieved. It just signals a clear need for, a paradigm shift, a new approach.
So if cattle modernization has proven such a tough nut to crack, where has Nigeria actually succeeded in transforming livestock production? And what are the truly surprising insights we can extract from those successes, things that maybe previous cattle efforts missed?
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Nigeria has had remarkable success in modernizing poultry production. Remarkable.
Hill country.
To the point of becoming the biggest commercial poultry industry in Africa, first in egg production, fourth in broiler meat. We're talking a combined net worth of over $3 billion.
$3 billion. That's massive. What was the key?
Well, the tipping point seems to have been multifaceted. First, the importation, and then, crucially, the local production of day-old chicks, DOCs.
Ah, the DOCs.
Yes. And alongside that, improved local maize. This whole ecosystem was further anchored by parent stock, PS, and grandparent stock, GPS, farms. And critically, supported by favorable bank financing, robust veterinary health care, and of course that huge internal market.
So it wasn't just one thing.
No, not at all. It was a result of deliberate government policies working hand in hand with savvy Nigerian entrepreneurship.
That's a powerful example, but poultry is often managed in contained environments. How confident are the sources that these lessons, particularly around commercial scale-up and market integration, truly translate to cattle? Cattle have such different traditional practices, different land needs.
That's a crucial question, absolutely. And this is where the Red Sokoto goat story offers perhaps an even more nuanced lesson. That one's quite unique.
The Red Sokoto goat, okay.
Right, so back in the 1970s, Sokoto State faced a sharp drop in revenue from its tanneries. Big problem. And it was largely due to poor leather quality.
Why?
The problem was traced back to the genetic adulteration of the indigenous Red Sokoto goat. This goat was famous, prized for its Moroccan leather.
So the quality was declining.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the state designed this ingenious, almost audacious breeding program. First step, incredibly important, they gained community buy-in.
Critical.
Then they purchased hundreds of purebred Red Sokoto bucks, which were affectionately termed Bunsaran Gomnati, or government bucks.
For other bucks, I like it.
These animals were handed over to municipal ward heads during breeding seasons. Town criers went around advising owners to sell or castrate their existing, less pure bucks.
Right.
And then on an agreed date, these high-libido purebred billy goats were just set loose across the community.
Set loose? Seriously?
Seriously. Yeah. Now, precise empirical data is scarce, it's the 70s, but the impact on productivity and fecundity generally agree to be shattering.
Shattering. It's quite a word. What a mental image. High libido billy goats. It sounds almost crazy. But what a testament to that community buy-in you mentioned.
Exactly.
So if we bring these two stories, poultry and the shattering goats, back to cattle, what are the core lessons for cattle modernization?
Precisely.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about the technology or the goats themselves. It was about the ingenuity of the local solution, the advocacy, and that crucial community acceptance. So if we connect this to the bigger picture for cattle, these successes provide truly pivotal lessons. First, it demonstrates that with appropriate localized technology, a modern production system can be established.
Okay.
Second, a modern system doesn't have to wipe out tradition. It can exist side by side and ideally in harmony with traditional practices.
Important point.
Third, with the right kind of advocacy, the right approach, traditional producers are absolutely capable of accepting modern innovations. They did with the goats. And finally, perhaps most importantly, past failures aren't destiny. They can be overcome with better planning, perseverance, and critically, an understanding of the specific socioeconomic context. These are the principles we absolutely must apply to cattle.
Okay, let's unpack these principles specifically for cattle then. The source proposes that the actual catalyst, the thing that could kickstart cattle modernization, would be the mass production of quality breeding stock. So we're talking pregnant heifers and young breeding bulls, basically the cattle equivalent of those day-old chicks that revolutionized poultry.
Exactly that. Now, while you could theoretically fly such animals in, their sheer size, the significant cost, potential healthcare issues, it all makes local production right from scratch ab initio and insufficient quantity in quantum satis by far the best option.
Local production is key.
Absolutely. And a critical enabler for this is a clear national breeding policy. The good news is the Federal Ministry of Agriculture is reportedly already working on this.
Okay, so a policy is in the works. But how do we actually produce these animals locally at the scale needed? What are the practical steps suggested?
Well, our source points to two rapid options. First, establishing commercial ranches. Second, establishing large dairy farms.
Ranches and dairy farms, how are they defined here?
A ranch, as defined here, is an enclosed large area where livestock can migrate freely within its boundaries, finding their own food and water. Think extensive.
Okay.
Ranches are seen as most appropriately situated in arid zones, areas where rainfall is low or poorly distributed, making traditional crop agriculture difficult. Kind of like what you see in Botswana.
Right, so potentially large areas of Nigeria.
Exactly. It means commercial ranches could potentially be established across vast swaths of Nigeria, particularly in these arid zones. Dairy farms, on the other hand, They need to be located in areas with high grain production and good municipal services. Why? Because dairy cows are essentially living factories, very efficiently converting grains, grass, and water into milk. They need more intensive support.
Got it. So different location strategies. But the real challenge then isn't just where to locate them, but how to establish and run these farms successfully, especially given the past hurdles we've discussed. What specific roles do the sources suggest for government versus the private sector in making this actually happen?
Yeah, the how is crucial. The underlying belief in the sources seems to be that the government's role should primarily be to engage the relevant special interest groups, provide the essential enabling conditions, infrastructure, policy, security, perhaps, and then largely step back.
Get out of the way, essentially.
To some extent, yes. Leave the operational aspects, the running of the farms, to the private sector. For the complex dairy farming, the sources, interestingly, suggest industry giants like the Dangote Group, people with that kind of capital and expertise.
Okay. And for ranches?
And for ranches, interestingly, the Nigerian army is included in the discussion.
The army. How would that work?
Well, the idea of the army partnering with countries like Argentina or Brazil, countries with deep ranching expertise, has actually been floated. It's argued that ranching would fit perfectly with the Army's regular resettlement and training programs. They have land, discipline, logistical capabilities.
That's definitely a unique angle. And where would these ranches be located initially, especially if the Army is involved? Are there specific places mentioned?
Yes, the most ideal initial locations suggested are Sambisa Grazing Reserve, that's a substantial 4,800 hectares, and a portion of Gidan Jaja Grazing Reserve, which is massive, 365,000 hectares. Those are in Borno and Zamfara states, respectively.
Sambisa, Gidan Jaja, high security areas.
Precisely. The reasoning is quite clear. Using these locations would serve to deter insurgents, rustlers, rural bandits, and other local bad boys, as the source puts it, from using these vast, often ungoverned spaces as hideouts or operational bases.
So a dual purpose, security and agriculture.
Exactly. The spin-off benefits would be significant. Enhanced food and national security, plus the development of critical skilled manpower for ranching, which is currently a glaring gap in Nigeria. It kind of leverages the Army's historical role in introducing new technologies and practices in various fields.
Okay, it's a bold strategy. But this entire strategy, Army involvement or not, really hinges on the consistent availability of that quality breeding stock we talked about. Can you elaborate a bit more on how that supply chain would actually function to support widespread adoption?
Right. The stock is the foundation. The proposal is to regularly harvest weaners and calves in bulk once they reach a certain weight or age. This is specifically to avoid the economic losses you get from keeping them too long in specialized, expensive breeding facilities.
Okay, harvest them young. Then what?
These young animals would be moved to special farms, maybe initially fed inexpensive powdered milk alternatives. Then, upon reaching the required age and weight, the females would be finished as in-calf heifers. This could be through AI, embryo transfer, or natural servicing, the young males. They'd be sold either as breeding bulls to upgrade herds or directed to feedlots for meat production.
I see.
The core idea is that the sustained availability of this quality breeding stock is what will stimulate rapid investments. Investments in new smallholder farms, larger farm startups basically, different kinds of ranches suited to Nigeria, and also help upgrade existing farms.
And it helps the traditional pastoralists, too.
Crucially, yes. It would provide pastoralists unhindered access to quality breeding stock for the genetic improvement of their traditional herds, if they choose. This, the sources argue, wouldn't just modernize the cattle industry, it could fundamentally transform it for the better. A rising tide lifts all boats, perhaps.
It's a comprehensive vision. Now, beyond these strategic proposals, we also have some quite poignant insights from the late Chief Odu Ogbe, who served as Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development under President Muhammadu Buhari. What was his proposed solution and, well, what happened when he tried to implement it?
Yes, his perspective is very telling. In an interview conducted just days before his passing, Chief Ogbe recalled how his proposal, which sounds quite simple on the surface, to introduce improved grass seeds for cattle grazing, was met with significant public resistance, even personal attacks.
Just for introducing grass seeds.
Just for introducing grass seeds. Despite its enormous potential to end farmer-herder clashes and dramatically boost dairy production, he firmly believed cows naturally prefer to stay in one place, graze properly, and produce milk, rather than roam around eating, plastics and rubbish.
Makes sense.
His ministry had even imported the specific grass varieties needed, but as he put it, Nigerians' negative attitude severely hindered the project. It just couldn't get off the ground properly.
So Chief Ogba's core idea was incredibly direct, tackle the very root problem, the feed itself. How revolutionary was that approach at the time? Was it just too simple for people?
It was deceptively simple, maybe, yet profound. He literally brought in grass seeds as a solution to feed scarcity, aiming to reduce nomadism that way. And it's interesting, the current Minister of Livestock Development has echoed this sentiment, stating quite directly that the problem is water and grass, nothing else.
Water and grass.
Ogba emphasized that nomadic herding isn't necessarily a cultural preference for everyone. For many, it's a sheer necessity, a desperate search for food and water for their livestock. He even cited an existing ECOWAS agreement that actually allows cross-border grazing.
Oh, really?
Yes, but he stressed that Nigeria's own failure to establish designated grazing areas with adequate water and grass had greatly worsened the situation, forcing herders onto farmland.
What were the potential benefits he saw if his grass seed approach had worked? And what was the personal cost he mentioned for pursuing such a, well, seemingly common sense but clearly controversial idea?
He argued that well-managed ranches, supplied with good fodder like his proposed grass, could significantly boost milk production. From the current average of maybe 2 liters per cow daily, up to as much as 20 liters.
2 to 20, that's a tenfold increase.
Potentially, yes, which would drastically reduce Nigeria's reliance on those expensive dairy imports we talked about. But tragically, he revealed that these ideas, this push for ranching and managed grazing, made him powerful enemies. He believed this was why he was dropped from President Buhari's cabinet in 2019.
Really?
He famously stated, "I was told that I knew too much."
I knew too much. That's chilling. It all points to a deeply embedded, complex issue, doesn't it? And our sources also provide a truly fascinating historical context to the current farmer-herder challenges, tracing some of the remote causes way back to the 1960s. What seemingly unrelated agricultural policies from that era could possibly set the stage for today's pastoralist wahala, as the source calls it.
Yeah, it's quite revealing how agricultural policies, often intended for good, can have these incredibly long-lasting, unintended consequences. Take the 1960s, for example. To feed the nation's growing population, the government introduced hybrid maize.
Hybrid maize. Okay, a green revolution type of thing.
Exactly. But this new maize variety, unlike traditional crops like sorghum or millet, requires mineral fertilizer for optimal growth. It doesn't rely on cow dung.
Ah, I see where this might be going.
Right. So to promote this hybrid maize adoption, a World Bank loan was secured, and these agricultural development projects, ADPs, were established across the country. The program was incredibly successful in boosting maize production. So successful that many Nigerians, even those 50 years old today, genuinely believe maize is an indigenous crop to their area.
But there was a significant downside, wasn't there? A hidden cost.
Yes. A major flip side. The widespread adoption of hybrid maize inadvertently, almost silently, demoted the prominence of cow dung in crop agriculture. And this, according to the source, irrecoverably destroyed the symbiotic relationship between pastoralists and farmers. That traditional exchange of manure for grazing rights or stubble.
That relationship was broken.
Broken or severely weakened. Furthermore, maize farming also rapidly appropriated Fadama land.
Fadama?
Yeah, those are the crucial livestock, dry season grazing and watering areas, often along riverbeds. Farmers started claiming them as gara, essentially free or available land for maize cultivation.
Taking over the grazing reserves?
Effectively, yes.
Yeah.
This singular act, this shift in crop focus and land use, coupled with the escalating impact of climate change drying up other areas, is identified as some of the deep, remote causes of what the sources call the current pastoralists' wahala, the trouble of conflict.
Wow. It really shows just how complex the issue is. Layers upon layers of history, policy, climate. On one hand, you have a figure like Minister Odu Ogbe stating clearly that pastoralists are farmers too, with genuine grievances that needed addressing, like lack of feed and water. But then, on the other hand, the sources mention some local sheriffs, perhaps community leaders or security figures who apparently view them very differently as marauding pistoleros, killing people for nothing with impunity, and advocating for tough, anti-open grazing laws. The divergence in perspectives is just stark.
Absolutely stark. It underscores the difficulty in finding solutions that address everyone's needs and fears.
As we wrap up this deep dive, it's abundantly clear that modernizing Nigeria's cattle production is, well, it's a multifaceted challenge, a huge one. But it's also one that comes with immense opportunities for food security, for economic growth, and potentially for national stability.
This discussion truly highlights that there really are no simple answers here. But by understanding the complex historical context, learning from those past successes like poultry and the red Sokoto goats, and carefully considering the proposed solutions, everything from national breeding policies and strategic ranch establishment to these perhaps innovative roles for the private sector and even the military, we can begin, hopefully, to chart a far more effective path forward. The emphasis in the source is on localized production of quality breeding stock and that strategic, sometimes security-linked land use. It does offer a compelling and actionable direction, I think.
Yeah, it feels more concrete. So for you, our listener, whether you're a government official grappling with these policy decisions or an animal farmer on the ground innovating daily, the key takeaway seems clear. The path to a modern, productive cattle industry in Nigeria demands not just technological innovation, not just importing grass seeds or breeding stock. It also demands a really deep appreciation for the complex interplay of history, economics, security, and crucially, community dynamics.
And perhaps the final thought is this. Given the history of failed attempts and the deeply entrenched challenges, like that Nigerian's negative attitude Chief Ogbe encountered, what specific, measurable steps could be taken next? Perhaps drawing directly on that buy-in of community success we saw with the Red Sokoto Goat program. How can that kind of engagement truly overcome the hurdles that have hindered past efforts? That feels like the critical question now.
A powerful thought indeed. How do you replicate that shattering success, but for cattle and nationwide? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into modernizing Nigeria's cattle industry. We hope this has given you much to consider and explore on your own.
Restore Nigeria News is excited to introduce all livestock farmers to Rico Gado Nutrition Limited, who are the makers of the Rico Gado brand of top-quality animal feeds. Rico Gado feeds have the best quality and the highest protein content to support livestock's weight gain and overall good health. Rico Gado offers a wide range of livestock feeds for all animals, including grower feeds, the finisher feeds, the breeder feeds, and the special feeds for dairy cows, for beef cattle, for sheep, for goats, for fish, and for poultry, which are designed to support optimal growth, reproduction, and overall health of livestock, and they are produced in a state-of-the-art manufacturing facility using high-quality raw materials. Rico Gado also supports local crop farmers by using locally sourced raw materials to produce animal feeds. This helps to boost the local economy and create jobs in the agricultural sector. Surely, Rico Gado Nutrition Limited is committed to providing livestock farmers with the best quality feeds to help them achieve optimal results. Furthermore, they provide technical assistance to livestock and crop farmers to help them improve their yields and overall profitability. Their team of experts is always available to provide guidance and support to farmers who need it. So if you are a livestock farmer looking to increase your profits, then look no further than the Rico Gado Nutrition Limited. Contact Rico Gado today to learn more about how they can help you take your livestock farming business to the next level.